When you're over 40, it's really common that you have a second run at some big goals in your life. You know, we've got kids, we're getting better, we're getting further with our careers, we can feel the responsibilities, creeping up. And we also, for the first time in our 40s, we probably start to consider that maybe we've got less years ahead of us than we do behind us. And we start to contemplate life expectancy, where we start to experience death firsthand, from loved ones, from friends, from parents, definitely from grandparents. And all of these things can really inspire us to create some big goals and to really have another run at our goals. One of the biggest problems that people have is that their actions don't match their goals. And that's what I want to talk about today, because if your goals are here, and you want to achieve really big things, but your actions are here, there's always going to be a disparity. You're never going to achieve the goals that you set for yourself. And so what I'm going to talk to you about today are practical things that you can apply in your life that are going to help you to achieve those goals and help you to bring those actions up to be in alignment with the goals. So if you're over 40, if you're somebody that has big strength and flexibility goals, then this is for you. And the boring stuff first, of course, if you enjoy my live streams, if you like this stuff, take a moment, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It takes less than a couple of seconds. Just hit that subscribe button. Really helps with the algorithm to get that content out there. And that's what helps to share messages like this to a wider audience, and it helps me to grow. It's what my brother and I, what our business relies on. So if you get value out of this stuff, the growth is what we need. And just by taking a moment to subscribe to our channel and to our other socials, it really goes a long way. So I have had massive goals for the majority of my life, and the majority of them I didn't reach. I was living this, goals up here and actions down here right through my 20s and through my 30s. And I actually went through this process that I'm going to be talking to you guys about now. I started this process in my mid-30s, where I started to look at the actions that I was taking. And, I reflected back on the past decade of my life and the goals that I'd had and what I hadn't achieved, and had to have a really hard look at what was I actually doing to achieve those goals. And the truth is that my actions just weren't in alignment with the goals. I've always had really big goals with my strength and flexibility training, and I was up and down with my training. I wasn't consistent. And so a huge part of what worked for me was, one of the first steps was to take a look at how you can create more room in your life to do the actions that are going to achieve your goals. A big problem that people have is that when we create these big goals for ourselves and we try to put more on our plate with our training, we commit to a higher training frequency. We want to, eat better. We want to do all these things that are putting more on our plate, but we fail to take things off our plate. And so one of the first steps to achieving your goals is to have a look at what you're doing in your life that isn't in alignment with your goals and removing it to create more space. Because when you're in your 40s, or older, you probably don't have room in your life for much more. It's, my life is very full, and, with parenting duties, with work duties, with relationship duties, you have a commitment to your spouse to be able to, spend time with them and to, give to your relationship. And if you don't make space in your life somewhere for adding this extra stuff, then you're just going to add stress to your life. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that people have, is that you start the new year, we're in February, we have another spout of inspiration where we really, reevaluate our goals, and we think, yep, this is the year, I'm really going to do it this year. And then we create this plan for this extra work that we're going to be doing that we weren't doing towards the end of 2024. And we fail to remove things to create space for that new plan. And it catches up with you pretty quickly. You might be feeling that already. We're halfway through February now, and it is it's that time of year where you might already be feeling that the actions that you were taking in January, that you're unable to sustain that you're getting to the point already where you just can't keep that same momentum going that you had in January. And so the first step to this is to really take a very harsh look at your life and think of what can you remove. And one of the first things to do, and probably I'm going to put one of the hardest things at the top, and that is to evaluate the relationships that you're putting time into and remove the ones that aren't in alignment with your goals. You're going to have, this is one of the hardest things that I've done, but it's also one of the best decisions that I ever made, was to look at the friendships that I had in my life with people that didn't support my goals, either vocally or just by their actions. And quite often it's just through their actions. You know, they might say, oh yeah, great, good for you, you know, go for it. But the things that they want to do with you and the expectations that they have with you on the time that you would spend with them is completely not in alignment with your goals. And those relationships are going to hold you back. They really are. The relationships that are, you know, if you look at the 5 people that are the closest to you, if you have goals to elevate your life to a new level, because if you're watching this and you have ambitions to increase your strength so that you can unlock calisthenic skills that you've never had before. You know, a lot of people that I'm working with want to be able to do handstands. You know, they've been working on it for years and they've never been able to do it. Or they want to be able to do muscle ups, or they want to get pull-ups for the first time, or they want to, you know, fix the aches and pains that they're feeling in their body from, you know, a lifetime of niggling injuries so that they can return to the sport that they love to do pain-free. You know, all of these things require significant action. It requires real work, and it requires consistent work. Consistency is the biggest thing. And what's going to happen when you're trying to elevate yourself to that new level, and you make a real announcement to the universe, to your ego, to yourself, to your spirit, to your soul, that this is something that you're going to do for yourself. The 5 people that are closest to you are going to do one of 3 things. There is only 3 possible outcomes. One is that they will rise with you. That's the least likely to happen. 2 is that they are going to sink their claws into you and keep you right where you are. They're going to prevent you from elevating and going forward. And 3 is that you're going to leave them behind. And you're going to leave that relationship behind you and elevate yourself regardless. The 2 most likely things are option 2 and 3. Either they're going to claw you down and keep you where you are, or you're going to leave them behind. And it's no surprise that the most likely option is the second one. What happens to most people, the vast majority of the time, is that they don't elevate to that new level. And they don't understand why. They're just banging their heads. All they see is this gap between, you know, where their goals are and where they're living, and they don't understand why. And one of the biggest reasons why this is happening is because people aren't making this hard decision. And the decision that if you really want to do this, and you can identify these relationships that are preventing you from getting there, in my experience, you just have to cut those out of your life. And that doesn't mean, like, I actually have said to some of my closest friends, I've actually presented this to them, and I've said, listen, this is where I'm going in my life. You're either going to come with me or we're going to drift apart. And we drifted apart. And I still love them. You know, they're still great friends of mine. We still communicate here and there. But, you know, these are people that I used to see at least weekly, spend a lot of time with. And now I see them almost never, like maybe once every couple of years. Maybe some of them I see once a decade. And if I didn't make those decisions, I wouldn't have been able to elevate my life to that next level, because I would have stayed stuck in this same place where I was before. And when I see these same friends, they're living a life that is very much on the same level that they were living 10 or 15 years ago when I made this decision. They really haven't elevated to that next level. Their health and fitness hasn't improved. And if your health and fitness hasn't improved when you age in your 40s, you know, I'm 47 this year, it's gone backwards. It doesn't stay the same. You're either improving your health and fitness or it's getting worse. And and that's something that was very, very hard for me to do at the time. At the time that I was making that decision, it took years for me to really, you know, accept that this is something that I was going to have to do. But it's one of the best things I ever did. And it's a message that you'll see shared very commonly by people that have achieved a lot in their life and that are coaches like me. You know, I follow people who are, you know, business mentors or who are financial mentors, who are people that are inspiring me to strive to that next level in those areas of my life. And they're all saying the same message. Every one of them is saying, I cut all of the friends out of my life that partied, that wanted to drink, or that made me feel any kind of shame for wanting to elevate myself to the next level. And the only people that I surround myself with are people that make me feel very good about that journey that I'm on. And that's one of the hardest things that people are going to go through. And some people, that person is their spouse. And I'm not saying to you, leave your spouse. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is go on the journey regardless of whether your spouse wants to come on it with you. And one of the best ways to inspire somebody to change, we all know this, is you can't tell somebody to change. You can't make them change. You can only inspire them. So if you make the changes in your life, and if they start to see progress and they start to see your strength, your flexibility improving, they start to see you losing fat, you know, building muscle, getting in better shape, maybe you'll inspire them to take action themselves. And so that's the first thing, is have a look at the relationships that are holding you back and make the hard decision. Because if you don't do this, in my opinion, and the opinion of many other people who have achieved success, then your best efforts are not going to get you to where you want to be. The next thing that we want to look at cutting out is the habits that you're doing that are taking your time and attention away from the new life that you want. And this comes in alignment with a concept that's very profound. A lot of people think that when they get to their goals, they'll start behaving in a different way. You know, when I get healthy and fit, I will be eating this way, and I'll be exercising this way, and I'll be doing this. And no IG Mike is saying, so leave everyone behind and train like a monster. Got it. In a way, yes. But we'll get to training like a monster and what that means, because I will talk about that in this live stream as well. Andy Lawson saying, found you boys just before I turned 40, 6 years ago. Just stopped by to give a wave. Done with BAS work at bent arm strength workout and a way to wind down for the night. Awesome, Andy. Thank you so much, brother. Mate, I'm going to be reaching out to you because I want to have a chat to you about your journey with us as well, because you're one of our OGs that's been with us for 6 years now. So I want to get your story. So so the next thing we look at habits, and this is probably equally as hard, because for me, I mean, the first habit that I had to give up was partying. You know, drugs, alcohol, that stuff in my 20s. There was a huge thing for me. That was just so bleedingly obvious that this is not conducive with the life that I want to live. And so what you want to look at is you want to, when you've got your goals, you want to picture the person that has already achieved the goals that you have. Okay, so, you know, for me, my big goals at the moment are a one-arm pull-up and a handstand push-up. So that's what I'm working on. So you have to look at the people that can do a one-arm pull-up and a handstand push-up, and you say, how does that person behave? What kind of habits does that person have? And then you start behaving like that now. You don't think, I'm going to get to those goals and then I'll change my habits. That's not how it works. You change the habits first, and then the results come. So you really want to look at your goals and analyze the person that has achieved those goals already. And that might be a figment of your imagination. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that there is, but there always will be. There'll be somebody that you can look at and aspire to. And you look at, well, what are the habits that person has? What does that person do in the morning? When does that person wake up in the morning? What do they do in the morning? What do they do in the day? What do they do after work? When do they go to sleep? How do they eat? How much alcohol do they consume? All of those things. And you want to start behaving that way. And so the first thing for that is to remove the things that person doesn't do. So another one for me was playing video games. That's something that I used to do right through my 20s and even in my early 30s. I love playing video games. And I had to make the really hard decision, because I always liked being good at playing video games. I've never been competitive on an international level, but I've always been very competitive within my friend circle. And I enjoyed that. That was something that was tied to my identity as I grew up. And I had to accept that the person that can do the things that I want to be able to do, with strength and flexibility training, those people aren't video gamers that play for hours every day and that have massive video gaming sessions on the weekends with their friends. Same with when I became a parent. That was also a decision I had to make when I became a parent. And so those were things that I had to remove from my life to create the space for what I wanted to be able to do. And then once you've created that space with removing the relationships that are toxic for your goals, with removing the habits that are holding you back, that aren't conducive with the person that you want to be, only then do you really have the space to add the habits that are going to get you to your goals. Because now I'll talk about this concept of training like a monster, and we talk about this idea of goals are here, but actions are down here. A lot of you have goals that are on that level, but the actions are down here and they're so far below it that you're never going to achieve them because of that. And there's two things that you can do, and both of them are viable options. Sometimes you need to lower the goals. Sometimes we need to lower the goals to match with the habits. That's something that I had to do recently in the last couple of years. I've been right through my 20s and I guess into my early 30s. I was a martial artist and I was really into it. I was really into Kung Fu. And I went to an Ido Portal workshop in 2015. That was my first exposure to Ido Portal. I had no idea who he was when I went there. I didn't even know what he looked like. My brother got the ticket for me, the $1,500 ticket. It ain't cheap doing those workshops. And that completely changed my outlook on training. I walked into that workshop feeling like I was a martial artist and I was dabbling in calisthenics, and I walked out of that workshop with this idea that you can just practice movement. You can mix things from different things and make a practice like that. And I got really hooked on this idea of movement culture and movement training for the next probably 8 years or so. And I was working like a dog. I was like, the amount of training that I was doing, because I was really hooked on this idea of getting really, really good at movement, was really unmanageable for my life. And I recently had to make the decision that I was going to remove the idea of being really good at all of it at once and just hone in and focus on the things that are the most important to me right now. And so the most important things to me right now is to do a one-arm pull-up and a handstand push-up, and to maintain my flexibility and to maintain my athleticism. So the amount of flow and locomotion that I do, that in a movement practice, it's like an hour a day, maybe more. I don't do that every day anymore. I do it very rarely, maybe once a week. I go to a park with a friend who's really into movement culture, and he trains like 4 hours a day, and we do a flow session together on Fridays. I'm going with him tomorrow to do it. And I just do that for a little bit of fun, to get myself out to do at least one training session with a buddy, because I train by myself all the time. But my point is that I had to lower my goals a little bit, because I realized that no matter how much I did, my actions just couldn't match that level to be able to achieve those goals that I had for myself. And that's okay. But then there's the other element to it where, if your goals are as low as you're willing to go, you really need to look at the actions and decide and be real with yourself if you're ever going to achieve those goals. An example is hand balancing. A lot of people want to learn handstands, and I ask people how often they practice them, and they say, I do, a 30 or 40 minute session once or twice a week. That's never really going to get you a handstand. A handstand is a skill, and a skill is something that needs to be practiced very regularly. Strength training and flexibility are different. Strength training and flexibility are adaptations that occur within the body physiologically and neurologically. So these are things that you can create a stimulus, and then there is a period of recovery afterwards that produces the adaptation. So an example, go into a strength training session, a bent arm strength session like what Andy's just done, where you're doing, dips and pull-ups and, your supplementary work. You do that strength training session, which is the stimulus, that you then have a recovery period after for 2 or 3 days where the adaptation occurs and growth happens. A skill is very different to that. A skill is something that needs to be practiced very regularly to get better. So it's just like shooting hoops in basketball. You know, if you want to get better at shooting hoops, it's not the kind of thing that you need to recover from. You don't shoot hoops on Monday and then you've got to recover for 2 or 3 days before you can shoot hoops again on Thursday. If you want to get good at shooting hoops and hitting 3-pointers, then you want to shoot 3-pointers every day. You want to be drilling that skill as often as possible. So the handstand is a skill. It is there is strength involved in it. There is a strength element to it. Like, you do need to have strength in your upper body, and you need to be able to maintain a core position. But the actual movement, the handstand, is a skill, and it's something that I've worked with several very, very good hand balancers now. Ida Portal. I worked with Roy Gold for 2 years. My brother worked with Miguel Sanchez. I didn't get to do that one. I was away. Worked with Yuri Mamestain, my friend Aaron McKenzie, who's really good, and several others that I can't think of now. Kyle Uyghur, when he came out to Australia. Anyway, everybody says the same thing. You know, if you want to get good at handstands, 5 or 6 days a week is the practice. And that's what I do. I do 5 days a week. Sometimes I do 6. And, you know, a handstand practice, you can do a decent handstand session, including the warm-up, in about 20 minutes. So it's not a lot of time, but it requires consistency. So if you have a goal to do a handstand, but you're only doing your handstand practice 1 or 2 days a week, you're probably going to be doing that for like 5 or 10 years, and you still won't be able to do a really good handstand. So going back to this comment of you got to train like a monster, I don't like the saying of train like a monster. I think that's for people that don't have kids. Wait until you've got kids and see if you can ever train like a monster. You just train the best that you can do, but you find the ways that you can be consistent. Consistency is the thing that matters the most. And when you're over 40, we don't have youth on our side anymore. Our bodies don't respond to working out the same way that we did when we were in our 20s and even in our 30s. You know, our testosterone's on the decline naturally. There's things we can do to boost it and to elevate it. And I do everything that I can naturally to try and make that happen. But what we do have on our side is wisdom. You have wisdom in your 40s that you never had in your 30s and definitely not in your 20s. You have that ability to understand that consistency is really the most important thing. And so then we need to find that way that if our goals are here, to find a way that we can match our actions with the goals consistently, not sporadically, not something that you can do for January where you go hard and train like a monster in January, but then when you get to February, it starts to decline. And then by the time you get to the end of the year, you're already, hyping yourself up for the way you're going to refocus next year. We need to find that way to be consistent and frequent with our training. And so that's why in the UMS, in the Unified Movement System that I teach people with online coaching, we combine strength and flexibility together. I'm actually interviewing one of our highest achieving members today, Kwok, who when he came to us, he was so inflexible. He was stiff as a board. He could barely touch his toes. Now he does chest to floor pancakes, a decent front split, decent middle splits, all the good flexibility movements. And his strength has increased so much that he does full handstand push-ups. The bastard unlocked them before I did. And but he didn't get slap tears along the way. So he has that on his side. And he can do a stall to press, which if you don't know what a stall to press is, Google it. Anyway, I'm doing that interview today, and I'll have it edited by next week, so it'll be up on my channel so you guys can watch. But the magic for him was that we taught him how to combine strength and flexibility into the same workout. Because when he came to us, he wanted to get flexible, but he was really concerned that he didn't understand how he could add more time to his schedule, because he's a personal trainer, he's very busy, and he already exercises 5 days a week. He does cardio and strength training, and he couldn't add more training to his schedule. And so the magic, the secret sauce for him was learning how to combine strength and flexibility into the same workout that didn't take any longer, but that was now making him flexible and strong at the same time, not just one or the other. So that's a really, really important part to this, is to find a way to make your workout super efficient. And also, look, I know this is a shameless plug, but this is the truth. Everything that I share with you guys is the truth about my journey and the truth about the way that I've helped tens of thousands of people around the world now to achieve their goals. And a part of it is having coaching by somebody that has walked the walk before you, that can guide you to make sure that you're not wasting time, and so that you don't have to waste time trolling YouTube, trying to get the answers and then trying to figure out how to mash it all together yourself. A really good interview that I did recently, if you go to YouTube and watch the interview with Genevieve Nell, it only goes for 7 minutes. She has an incredible story where she talks about she could never do pull-ups before working with me. Now she can do sets of 5 reps, and she could do weighted pull-ups. She can also do pistol squats. And before working with me, she was getting individual programs from people. She get a program from this person for stretching, and a program for that person for strength training, and a program from that person for handstands, and then trying to put it all together herself, and none of it was working. And so when she came and got all of it done for her and she didn't have to think about it, that's when all the results happened. And the reason I say that is because, remember I talked about removing things, finding things that you can remove. You want to find a way to get as much of your time back as possible, because we need time to be able to sit there and do fucking nothing. You need time in a day where you can sit there and look out the window and smile and just reflect. You don't want to have your entire day just filled with stuff. That catches up with you really quickly. And so if your strategy for getting the results that you want to get with your training is that you're going to watch a shit ton of YouTube, and you're going to get all these fragments of the puzzle, and then you're going to work out how to do it, which is more time. That's something that I used to do as well. And man, I was spending like 2 hours a day on YouTube watching videos, and then another God knows how much, compiling my programs and getting it all done, all together. And it still didn't, achieve the results that I wanted. And, there's a smarter way that you can do it. You can outsource this. We're in this world where we outsource so much. We outsource the work for our car. We go to the mechanic. We don't go on YouTube and work out how to fix our car. We take it to a mechanic to repair for us, so that we don't have to, so that we can save that time. And we just, invest a few $100s, and we get back way more than that with the time that we don't have to invest in trying to figure out how to be able to service our own cars. We do the same with a plumber at home. I'm sure some of you are do-it-yourself people, but for the majority of us, if we have a problem at home, we call a plumber. The plumber comes, does the work for us. We pay them a few $100s, and we save, hundreds, thousands of hours of time, which has a monetary value to it. Time is money. And, we get that time back, and we're able to do more of the things that we love. But it's funny, it seems that with health and fitness, people aren't making that same recognition. People aren't recognizing that they're investing so much time in watching content to work out how to do things themselves in a far worse way than if they invested to work with a professional that can do all of that for them, and they just have to turn up and do the work and get the results that they want. I know that's a shameless plug, but that was a huge breakthrough for me. When I was trying to do all this on my own, and I'm a personal trainer, I'm a qualified trainer that had 10 years experience before I went on this journey with calisthenics and flexibility. I really thought I could do it on my own. And it wasn't until I invested with coaches that had walked the walk before me that I was only ever able to unlock the results that I'm now proud of. So I've got a lot of questions here to respond to. If you guys have got any questions on Instagram or TikTok, let me know and I'll answer them. Francis Hassan is saying 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is a good book that speaks of exactly what you're talking about. You know what, brother? That is in my top 10 books of all time. I've read that book 3 times, and there's no surprise that what I'm talking about correlates to that book, because that's where I learned a lot of this stuff. If you guys want to go to the next level, read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by, I can't remember the author. I've got it up on my bookshelf there somewhere, but I can't see it easily. Anyway, it's up there somewhere. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It is one of the best books you will ever read. It is incredible. Another really good book is called Essentialism. I do know the author of that one because my wife asked me for that just yesterday, by Greg McKeown. Essentialism is an incredible book. Amber is saying, hi coach, hi tribe. Hi Amber, thank you for tuning in. Francis is saying there's an exercise that's called rocks. Big rocks being the most important and small pebbles that are not important. If you do the big important stuff first, then you can get rid of the small stuff. 100%. You guys would be so surprised at when you do what I've said, where when you remove this shit that you didn't think that you thought was important, but now you're making these hard decisions and you're removing this stuff that isn't in alignment with your life and, you know, the life that you want to live anymore. You would be so surprised at what happens when you look back 6 months and you think, oh, wow, I haven't done that thing once and my life hasn't fallen apart, and my life is even better now than it was before. It's incredible how much shit we do in our days and our weeks and our months that is just useless crap that is not getting us to where we want to be. And Francis is saying the small pebbles that represents things not aligned with your goals or what's important in your life. Absolutely, 100%. Brazil's saying, I agree about skills being practiced regularly. What do you think of Grease the Groove approaches like twice a day, sets of handstand progressions, never going to failure? That's what I'm trying. Yeah, look, it's a way to do, it is a way to do handstands. I have never been told to do that by a coach that I've worked with for hand balancing. It's almost always, in the earlier stages of hand balancing, it's 5 sets a day. And, you know, when I was recovering from my slap tears, I couldn't do that. I was doing 2 or 3 sets a day and I was doing it every second day because it was too much load for my shoulder. And that all goes into load management. If you want to know about load management and why you keep getting injured and why handstands keep causing you pain, watch my live stream from yesterday because that's where I talk about that. And then I had to build up my load tolerance. But every hand balancing coach that I've ever worked with is, you know, you do a workout with 5 sets of face-to-wall handstands at the start of your journey, and then you move to other progressions afterwards. And I think that's the best way to do it, because in all honesty, and everybody says 2.5 minute rest period as well between your handstand sets, and that entire thing gets done in less than 15 minutes. So it's a very, very short amount of time to do it if you don't include the warm-up that you do. You know, because you do your first set, and let's say you can do your first set for 30 seconds, and then you rest for 2.5 minutes. We're talking 3 minutes per set there, 5 times, it's 15 minutes. And then it's actually even less than that because you don't have to rest after the last set. Francis is saying, and we also have grey hairs. Yeah, we all have grey hairs in our 40s. Lars is saying, I'm struggling with finding the right level of frequency for learning the back bend bridge. It's so demanding for the spine. I want to do it every day, but it's impossible. Spine is a limiting factor here. Do not do the back bridge every day. That is not a skill. That is a flexibility movement. And you definitely want recovery from that. 2 times a week is a good place to start with a 72-hour rest period, and then you can eventually progress to 3 times a week. So with a 48-hour rest period, but be careful with that. You know, the back bridge is a demanding movement, and there's a lot to do before you just go straight into doing a back bridge. Martin Lasso is saying, since you are the face for slap tear, could you do a workout for other muscle groups like chest, back, arms? That would be great. You mean you want me to talk through a workout for chest, back, and arms for people that suffer slap tear or that are recovering? Martin, this is a problem. This is something that I've talked about a lot with people. Everybody on social media is asking for the workout. What's our workout that I can do? What's our set of exercises I can do? But whatever workout that I show you is only good for you for 4 weeks because you have to use periodization. So I could show you a workout and then that'll be good for you for 4 weeks, and then you need to go to a new workout that challenges you on a new level. And that new workout will need to be specific to your ability, which is going to be different to somebody else's ability. So I can't put out a series of workouts that everybody can follow because that's not how it works. Everybody adapts differently. I've got a lot of workouts on YouTube that are a start point, like that where most people can start from, but then people need to, you know, test and adjust. Like you can look at so many of my videos, you get people's comments that are so vastly different. You'll get people saying, this is too easy for me. Is there something that's a bit more challenging? And then you'll get the next person saying, I can't do that exercise. What should I do instead? Well, this is why coaching is so important, because there is no one size fits all. There is a start point, and then there is how you respond to all of the exercises, and then there is adapting the program phases that follow that. And then each program phase builds on the last, and it needs to be specific to the individual. It's safe exercises for slap tear, man. I've got that in a program. Go to if you download my get my slap tear rehab blueprint. So if you go to unitygym.com/slap tear blueprint, get that. And then there's an opportunity to get a program that has just that, because it's more than just putting some workouts together. You've got to have tutorials, you've got to have a follow along video that shows you how to do it, and you've got to have the opportunity to communicate with me, to ask me how you're going. And that's what you get with all of that. So go and start with that. That's the best start place for you. You're welcome, Lars. I'm very happy to answer your question, and I'm glad that it's helpful. So yeah, look, make sure that when you're doing your back bridges, make sure that you really, you want to have shoulder flexion where you can get your arms above your head before you start doing back bridges. So you want to be able to get your back on the wall, and you want to be able to lift your arms up so that your arms touch the wall. If you can't do that, you want to be working on shoulder flexion first. Don't just go straight into doing back bridges. You can really cause yourself problems. And when you do back bridges, start with feet elevated back bridges. That's less requirement for flexibility on the shoulders. And then you work your way down by lowering your feet down lower to the ground. So yeah, guys, look, I hope that helps. I hope that I've given you guys some food for thought. And I hope that you when you walk away from this, that what you do is you have a real look at your lives, look at your actions, look at your goals, look at your actions, look at the relationships that are holding you back. That's a really hard decision to make, but I'm telling you right now, if you don't do it, one of the three things is going to happen. Either you're going to bring those people with you in those relationships. They're either going to follow you on the journey, and the only way that's going to happen is if you have a conversation with them and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Do you want to come on this journey with me? Because they have to do the work too. The second is that despite your best efforts, that you're going to try to do it, just by the fact that you want to maintain the relationship means that relationship is going to keep you stuck exactly where you are. Because every time you start to move forward, you'll notice that you're moving away from that relationship, and you'll try to maintain the relationship, and that trying just keeps holding you back. Or the last thing that's going to happen is you're just going to say, well, I'm doing it anyway, and you're going to start creating this growth in your life. You're going to grow, and you're going to grow apart from that relationship. So one of those three things is going to happen. And I advise you to decide which one's going to happen. Don't let it be the one that occurs by default, because only one of those happens without you making a decision. And that is that you stay where you are and you stay in alignment with the relationship. Yes, Singing Dancing Muscle Man is saying, like the live stream, everyone. Please take a moment, click like when you're watching on YouTube, and take a moment to subscribe. Subscribe to my channel. It really, really helps. So, look at those relationships. Look at what you can remove from your life. Have a look at what can I take out of my life that's going to allow me to level up to that next level. And then have a look at your habits. Look at the habits that you're doing, and look at the person that you want to be. So you want to achieve these goals. You want to unlock a press to handstand. You want to do a handstand. You want to be able to do muscle ups. You want to, get a double body weight back squat. And look at the person that can do those things already and start behaving like that person. How does this person behave? Don't make the mistake of thinking, once I get to that level, I'm going to behave like that person. And then once you start creating those habits, create consistency with them. Consistency is what's going to get you there. You need to be moving towards these goals, and you need to be sticking to these habits daily. That's what's going to get you there. It's not about going hard or going home. It's not. The all or nothing mentality is very sabotaging. Where the all or nothing mentality is, I'm going to do all of this and I'm going to change my entire life. I'm going to do everything, and if I can't do all of it, well, I'm going to do none of it, because it doesn't work. Some is better than none. So you build on things. These habits are things that, it's called habit stacking. You'll create a habit, and then you'll create another habit that works on the back of that habit, another habit, and you stack these habits that end up becoming so powerful that it would be unreasonable to think that you will not achieve the goals that you want to achieve. And if you can do this, then in your 40s, you are going to achieve so much more than you ever achieved in your 30s and 20s. And yeah, get on it, guys, and let me know how you're going with it. Make the hard decisions, do the work, get it done, and you're going to achieve more in this decade than you've achieved ever in your life. I've achieved more in the last 10 years than I did in my entire life, and I've achieved more in the last 3 years than I did in the 10 years before it. It has this compounding effect, it rolls on. So I hope this helps, guys. I'm going to be talking more about stuff like this over the coming weeks, more about things for those of us that are older, for those of us that are wiser, and for those of us that want to get more out of life. So stay tuned. If you didn't know, I do these live streams every day. Wherever you are in the world, exactly 40 minutes ago is when I go live. So if you set a reminder, if you subscribe to my YouTube channel and you click the notification bell, you'll see every time I go live. But I go live Monday to Friday in Australia, which is Tuesday to Thursday for those of you in Europe or America. And it's at 41 minutes ago from whatever your current time is now. All right, team, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you got something out of it, and I will see you tomorrow.